Okay, evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, October 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee. I am your fill-in chair, Jonathan Nusma, council member of the 4th Ward, filling in for Councilmember Burns, who may be joining us online this evening. So I will start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Reed. Here.
A quorum being present, I will call the meeting to order at 5:04, and we'll entertain a motion on item M1.
I will move the minutes of our last meeting, October 9th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. The minutes of October 9th, 2023 are approved. That brings us to public comment. We have one person signed up for public comment this evening online. Is there anybody else in the room who wishes to make a public comment? I don't see anybody. So with that, we will go to Mr. Mike Vasilko online. Mr. Vasilko, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Maybe 2 minutes, but you're the only one, so we'll give you 3.
Okay, so, and I'll just go to A9. So you know what I'm going to say. We're going 1 step forward and 5 steps backwards when it comes to the purchase of electric vehicles versus, fuel burning, in this case, a diesel fuel burning truck and a gasoline Ford Transit cargo van and 3 Ford Expeditions Max. So they should burn a lot of good fuel. So my question, really directed to everyone, but mostly to you, Jonathan, is why do you keep saying yes to staff when they keep coming back with these are going to be in the fleet for 20, 30 years, most likely. I just don't understand it. Not going to get excited about it. I've mentioned it too many times. Staff just doesn't get it, I guess. And yet I'm looking to the council and APW members to say no. Just say no. Then item 817 is more of a curiosity question on my part. We're increasing fees for ambulance calls. My question is, why is there a fee at all? If you live in Evanston, you're paying for the paramedics, you're paying for the fire department, you're paying for the vehicle, the equipment that's in the vehicle, the supplies, everything's paid for. Staff is there 24/7, so why is an Evanston resident who is in trouble medically get charged now, I guess, $2,000 plus mileage? So if somebody could answer that question, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else online or in the room who wishes to make a public comment? Last chance, going, gone. All right, let's move on with our agenda.
I would like to move the consent agenda minus items A3, A6, A8, A14, A17, and A18. Sorry, added some new ones to the list.
14, A17, and A18. All right, and A9. So Councilmember Reed has moved the consent agenda minus items A3, 6, 8, 9, 14, 17, and 18. And that has been seconded by Councilmember Harris. All in favor say, actually, let the record reflect that Councilmember Burns is now available online, and I will ask for a roll call vote. Beggar, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Motion carries, and the consent agenda minus items A3, 6, 8, 9, 14, 17, and 18 has passed. That moves us to item A3.
I move to open discussion for the approval of change order number 1 to the Arts Council contract with Chicago Public Arts Group.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I do have one clarification from staff. Is Joy here?
Hi, yes, I am.
Go ahead, Ms. Norris.
Hi, so clarification is coming in because there have been 2 amendments made to this contract. One, the second amendment was made in 2022. The third and final amendment has been made this year. Because of turnover of staff, there were some things that there was a gap in understanding for what new items needed to be made to the contract, which is what increased the number of our final total, which is what brought it up to the total that is now present. We're very excited for having the items that were included were reinforcing the steel for this structure, that the piece is the reinforcement of steel to the structure of the piece, and also surveying the area of the finalization of the site for the piece, that the site for where the piece will be installed. So those are the updates for it. If there's any specific questions that I can answer, please let me know.
And just to confirm the total dollar amount being requested.
Yes, the final dollar amount is $31,171.
Right, and that is what is reflected in the contract language. Something different than what was in the memo, but the contract we are approving does have that number in it, so.
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Norris. If there's no further discussion, I will call the roll.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously. That moves us to item A6.
I move for the approval of purchase order increase for We Got Game LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on item A6? Councilmember Reed.
Yes. Is Director Thomas available? Thompson? I don't know why I keep saying Thomas. So my question here is just getting some clarity. It seems that we're bringing in revenue from this, but we're also having to pay up front. I'm just curious about why the contract is worked out in this way. Okay. Yeah, let's table this and move on for now. I move to table this until later in this meeting.
We have a second from Councilmember Harris. All right, we'll come back to item A6. Let's move on to item A8.
I'll move item A8, approval of emergency replacement of Civic Center Civic Center boiler building staircases.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I do have a question for Manager Cholik, if you are available, sir. Yeah, thank you for responding to the 2 questions that I asked online. The one question I forgot to ask, I will do so in person now. Who's using that apartment? Is it currently occupied?
Yes. Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Sean Cholik, Manager of Facilities and Fleet Management. That building is currently being used as a apartment lease to a tenant that we have on board. So it is fully occupied, and there are people utilizing it.
And just, yeah, I believe it's a city staff member.
That's correct.
And it has been a city staff member since maybe 2017, 18?
Yeah, 18, I believe.
All right, so, and it is really a safety concern.
Yes.
Something that we can't defer.
Right.
Because I'm not looking for ways to spend more money in this building, at least for now.
Right. Yes, it definitely has to be addressed. It's not something that we would recommend holding off on.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on this one? All right, I'll call the roll on item A9. I'm sorry, item A8.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Item A8 passes unanimously, moving us to item A9.
I will move
Can
item
we go
A9.
back? Can we go back with,
Oh,
Director
yes, I will
Thompson
move
is here, so-
item A6, approval of purchase order increase for We Got Game LLC, RFP 1925.
And Councilmember Harris seconds,
second?
removing item A6 from the table. So, Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the structure of the deal here. I just find it interesting that we are making revenue on this, but we're also paying the folks.
We are. So, Matt Poole, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation, council members. Yes, so we have a 70-30 split with this particular vendor. So they provide all of the instruction, all of the instruction for the programs. We take the revenue in as our program participants, and then they invoice us back however many kids sign up for the classes.
I'm sorry, so we pay them after we receive the funding? Okay.
Right, so at the completion of the programs, then they invoice us based on a number of enrollees, based on the resident rates. So we have a 70-30 split depending on resident rate, depending on the price of the individual programs. And the program prices vary depending on whether it's a camp, how long it is, et cetera.
So the expense we're approving is
It's an
to
increase.
reimburse for a program that's already taken place?
Correct, yes. So, so we have a 3-year, we entered into an RFP process with them. We have a 3-year contract. This is the final year of that contract. They provide programming at Robert Crown Center and at Chandler Newberger for sports-based programming. At the beginning of the year, we weren't certain how much what the enrollment looked like for summer. And so at that point, we put in a certain PO amount. And then after our summer enrollment was completed, we found that we had a lot more kids sign up than we anticipated. And so we had to ask to have the PO amount increased. And that PO amount increase came then to across the threshold for city council approval. And so that's why we're bringing it before you.
Oh, okay. So did the council approve this contract in the first place?
The initial, through the initial RFP process, yeah. That's my understanding. Through We Got Game was awarded the contract 3 years ago.
Okay. I feel like someone else flipped their light on, so I'll stop.
All right, Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand, it really pays for itself because we have the split. So while it's an increase, it was based off enrollment.
Correct, yeah. So the initial enrollment, we anticipated, needing to be able to pay out about $24,000. But with the increase in the summer participation, because of there was an opportunity for a lot of kids to sign up for a summer camp at the end of our normal summer camp season. And so it was one of the only games in town. So we had a lot of kids sign up for that particular camp, which increased the revenue or increased the amount that we need to pay out. And this request to increase the PO would cover max enrollment for any program still to happen in the fall. So we don't know what those look like quite yet. And so we still have programs happening through the end of December.
Chair, if I could be acknowledged.
Go ahead, Councilmember Burns.
So I just want to make sure I understand this is it's not a separate fee on top of their revenue their revenue share. It's just revenue share. That's what we're approving today. We're not paying a separate fee, whatever that amount would be, plus giving them their share of revenue. It's just revenue share when it comes to this organization.
Correct, yeah, it is, we have a 70-30 vendor agreement with them, and it's whatever the amount of depending on how many kids enroll and what the price is for that. It's not an additional cost, we just need to make sure that we have enough in our PO to be able to pay them out for all of their services that they provided
Right.
throughout the year.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear because I don't know if everybody understood that. Because I think originally even I thought it was on top of a separate fee that we pay them to administer their program, that in addition to that, we also have a revenue sharing agreement where they get an additional amount. But that it doesn't sound like that's the case. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Yeah, that is correct.
Councilmember
Okay.
Reed?
Yeah, just with that in mind, I guess, and this is it for me now, so we don't have to answer this now, but I'm just curious why it seems like the initial contract should cover this, and it wouldn't have to come back before council for approval. If we're just doing a revenue split, then I don't see what council's approving. And that revenue split was in the initial contract.
Yeah, so the approval is the amount that we're paying out as a city is now above what we can authorize as staff. And so now that payout amount is at the council level of
So
approval.
this should be a pretty straightforward no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about process on this one. It just seems like if the contract said that this is what we need to do, wouldn't need to come back before council.
So quickly, Audrey Thompson, Director Parks and Recreation. So if the contract does not rise to $25,000, then it does not come before council. We go through the whole process of getting an RFP. But now, because of the estimate and how many young people are actually enrolled, it's superseded the
So
25,000.
initially, it didn't come to council?
No.
Okay, so that was my initial question.
Right.
Did this
Yeah.
initially, okay, that answers why
Right,
it's coming
so
to
it
us.
was
All right.
under the 25,000, which was something that Luke could approve,
Right.
our city manager, and so now we have to come because it does go above that threshold.
That makes total
Yeah,
sense. That's why I
okay.
asked early on, did this initial contract come to
Sure,
council?
sure,
Okay.
sure. All right.
Okay. There being no further discussion on item A6, I will call the roll.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Item A6 passes unanimously, and now item A9.
I move item A9, approval of purchase of one electric forklift and one diesel-powered Peterbilt Model 382 truck, one gasoline Ford Transit 150 cargo, and 3 gasoline Ford Expedition Max
Second.
vehicles.
It's been moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Is there any discussion on item A9? Not sure.
Yes.
Councilmember Burns.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate a discussion I had with Director Kano and Mr. Cholik. I think moving forward, what I asked as both the chair of the ABW committee, but also just a council member that's interested in this, is that from now on, instead of using kind of general language to describe our electric vehicle policy, to really go into a little bit more detail for each specific vehicle that we purchase. It could be 1 or 2 lines that just explains why we're not going with an electric option, and that could be because one doesn't exist, but just providing that information in the memo, because we tend to get the same questions, whether it's from us or community members, about why we did not go electric or hybrid for any given purchase. And so I think Director Kano and Cholik have said that it won't be an issue for them to add that. They're going to work on figuring out how to add that to our memos moving forward. It's something obviously that they're thinking about as they're making these decisions. My request is that they add a line or two moving forward to the memos. So I just wanted to summarize those conversations that I've had with staff, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Manager Cholik, if you could just kind of summarize the questions that
Sure.
I asked you online about the need for these vehicles.
Right. Chair and members of the committee, so just real quick to clarify some of Councilmember Burns' points. So obviously the forklift number 745 is going to be electric. That one is easy to do for us. Vehicle, the diesel-powered vehicle is going to be utilized by Public Works. Right now, for that vehicle, we don't have the charging infrastructure in place to handle that. Plus, we are still exploring options of what might be a suitable piece of equipment for that kind of heavy-duty equipment. As far as the vehicles that are going to be used in the police department headquarters and the fire stations, we also have not worked out engineering on those to make sure that we have capacity in those facilities to handle electric vehicles. Therefore, we are moving towards gasoline powered for those. I also want to point out, that staff is, it is our goal to do electric vehicles, but we need to make sure that we do our homework, do the engineering properly to make sure that the infrastructure can accommodate it. And at this point, we still need to work on that. Let me revisit Councilmember Newsma's questions.
Is what if we didn't buy these vehicles now?
Right. So if we, the issue with not buying these vehicles now, I mean, obviously we can always wait, but while we're waiting for the engineering to be conducted and for build slots to be available and for the technology to be there, if we don't order these vehicles now, basically we just fall further and further behind with our replacement schedule. And as we do that, then suddenly we're building up the amount of vehicles that we need to buy the next year and the year after that. And in the meantime, as vehicles fail and we don't have replacements for them, that impacts critical operations of the city. So it's definitely not recommended by us to postpone this. Like I said before, it is our goal to go electric, but we want to make sure we do that in a manner that makes sense and that's well thought out. And then there was a question about, what were the most and least critical of the vehicles that we were moving forward with. So as we do our equipment replacement planning, we go through the approximately 600 pieces of equipment, and we figure out which ones are the highest priority. So all of the ones that are moving forward with this recommendation today are high priority vehicles. Things that are for less critical operations or vehicles that if they go down in the middle of the day have limited impact, those are the ones that we wait for and we kind of push back. So,
Thank you. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. So I hear you on the replacement schedule, so I get that for maybe the electric forklift or the Peterbilt Model 382 truck, but I'm curious particularly for the 3 Ford Expedition Maxes, why aren't those cars, those seem like pretty standard vehicles that I could go out to a lot today and buy one. So why if we were to hold off on those?
So those are not available right now in EV. That's generally, EVs will be the smaller SUVs. These are a little bit larger, and these have been ones that we've planned out and worked with the police department because they need larger vehicles in this case.
Do we know of police departments around the country that have electric vehicles?
That's a good question. I know that there's a couple of them that have been trying them, but I haven't looked recently to see how successful they are or if they're continuing that. But that's something we can look into.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in our police vehicles being electric because they kind of run it all. When in use, they are pretty much on the whole time.
Right. They're a great candidate for it because they're idling constantly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Are these hybrids at all? They're just pure?
That's a good question. I don't believe they're hybrids, but I'd have to confirm with my team.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any further discussion on item A14? I'll request a roll call.
Councilmember Harris. Aye. Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Item A14 passes unanimously, bringing...
No, that was,
I'm sorry, A9, I'm getting ahead of myself. A9 passes unanimously. That brings us to A14.
I move for the resolution 79R23, authorizing the settlement and release of all claims in city.
second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember Reed. Is there any discussion on item A14? Councilmember Reed.
Yes. Attorney Ruggie, or Corporation Counsel Ruggie, what is, or Hitesh, whoever is most comfortable answering this, what is our insurance fund balance now?
Actually, I have
Roughly.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed, Chair Newsma, members of the committee, Alex Ruggie, Interim Corporation Counsel. Actually have the exact numbers, if you give me 1 second.
I got them right here, if they're in the Google Doc that you filled in earlier.
They are, and I can pull them up as well. So the insurance fund balance currently, we have spent $639,503.40 against a budget of $1.25 million. And then obviously with this pending settlement not included in that.
And, but we're in the insurance fund overall is in the red, what, is it $4 million roughly?
Yeah.
Hitesh.
Councilmember, this is Hitesh. Councilmember Reed, yes, it is still in the negative, the insurance fund.
Thank you. And roughly by $4 million, is that correct?
Let me give you the audit numbers so that, we, as of December 31st, because we do some year-end adjustment based on the claims. So I'm looking at the 22, okay, enterprise fund. Insurance fund. It was a $2.1 million negative fund balance.
$2.1 million negative fund balance. And how is the insurance fund funded? By the general fund?
General fund and the other fund.
What other fund?
Wherever we have some people, mainly for the water fund, parking fund, sewer fund, fleet fund.
I'm sorry, so you're saying a number of funds contribute to the insurance fund? Okay.
Yes, there are. Those are the general fund, sewer, solid waste, water fund, parking, library, yes.
Okay. And, I just want us to be aware of this. Our insurance fund is a fund that is causing a lag on the budget. We have $2 million in the negative. We have a number of funds, as Hitesh just said, supporting the insurance fund, but it clearly is not enough. And every time we get sued, the city of Evanston is on the hook to pay the first $1.2 million in each individual suit. Or first, is that correct? Yes, that is correct. And so with that, this is a fund I think we really need to pay attention to and reduce our legal liability wherever possible. And this council has taken a number of steps by updating our code to attempt to do that, but there are more things we can do. And I think in our budget we have a new position that is being added that will specifically work with our various departments in order to try to reduce that legal liability internally. And I suppose the funds that are contributing to the insurance fund are because those departments have internally the highest number of injuries that are charged against the insurance fund. I'm thinking about the fire department, or what is the logic behind the funds that are supporting the insurance fund?
I mean, it is mainly the general fund, which is the largest, because workers come, so it depends on the number of employees. So yeah, 85% of the, almost, maybe I would say, yeah, water fund and the general fund. General fund, yeah, contributing almost more than 60% to the insurance fund, followed by the water fund, because we had some claims in the water fund and so many employees are under the water fund, followed by the parking and the solid waste.
Okay, I'd actually just love just at some point to do an analysis of what are the, what departments, what funds, what entities are drawing against their insurance fund the most. So whether it's the fire department because of injuries on duty, or the police department because of lawsuits, or, you know, in this case, a lawsuit. I just love us to understand where the pain points are coming from. All right, that's it.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will call the roll on item A14.
Councilmember Harris,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed,
Aye.
Item A14 passes unanimously, bringing us to A17, ordinance 103-023.
I will move items A17 and A18 concurrently. I pulled them both off.
Second.
It's items A17, which is ordinance 103-023, and item A18, which is ordinance 105-023, have been moved by Councilmember Reed, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I pulled these off. One, actually, because we had some questions from Mr. Vasilko, but primarily because these two items, I'm supportive of these two items, but they did not go through referrals. And I just want to understand, you know, on the record, why they didn't go through referrals and what the logic is and what is the line that is drawn to determine what goes through referrals. And so one, just I guess I'll ask this to legal. Our council rule says that any policy change must go through the referrals committee. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councilmember Reed. Yes, that is correct. And to answer your question, it was my understanding that these items, and along with the water rate increase that was before the council at the last meeting, were all directly stemming from the budget. So they correlated to the budget ordinance and the proposed budget for 2024. And because these were connected to the budget, they all moved together. So that was my understanding of these.
Yeah, I just want to have a clear understanding of what the line is, because, you know, let's say that we wanted to change the bag tax fees or any other fees that we charge in the city. I would assume that a referral would be required to discuss those fee increases. So are we saying that the rule is, or the interpretation of the rule is, that if the fee increase, which is tied to an ordinance, right, so we are having to change policy here, that if the fee increase is tied to an ordinance, that it does not require a referral?
I'm not sure that's what's being said. I think in this
I'm sorry, if the fee increase, I completely misspoke, my apologies.
okay.
What I meant to say, if the fee increase is tied to, did I say to the budget or did I say to an ordinance?
Said ordinance.
I meant to say budget, to the budget. If we're saying that it's tied to the budget, that there is not a referral required.
And of course, the referrals committee and the rules, the city council rules, it's up to the city council to determine the line. So I think staff understood this, that because it was connected to the budget, there was not a referral needed. If that's not the case, obviously staff can take direction from city council to ensure that that's not the case moving forward. Typically, in years past, there's always been budget ordinances that have been brought with the budget to increase fees, to increase taxes, or any ordinances that would be included in the budget that are necessary for the budget to pass, that are included in that budget, to all be brought together. So I think staff was just utilizing the past precedent for that. If that's not the case, obviously staff is happy to take direction going forward.
my thought is, according to the rules, these items shouldn't be on the agenda, so we either have to clear up what the precedent is and whether or not budget-related items require referral, because if not, then I've got a lot of ideas that, I'd be happy to bring forward that would not need referrals. So I just think we need to set a clear line on what the rule is. But to the specific policies, I do have one question. Mr. Vasilko raised for item A17 for the ambulance fees that Evanston taxpayers cover the cost of the fire department. So what is the fire department's budget or proposed budget for 2024?
Total budget?
Total budget, yeah.
Same way. But I can speak to the question that was raised, though. If you want me to do that first, or do you want to know the budget first?
Just the budget,
I
roughly.
believe we're at 16 million total.
And then I'm also going to ask that same question for the police department. What is the total budget for the police department? And then what is our requested property tax levy?
Okay, I'm sorry. Fire department's budget's 21 million. And I get confused with that because we were at one time figuring the pensions in
Right.
that, and then that was split away. So
Right.
now it's just, so we're.
So 21 million for the fire department. What for the police department? Hitesh, do you know that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'll just
Okay.
respond with just a couple.
And just to clarify, the 21 million for fire does not include pensions.
Correct.
Not anymore. It used to.
And we'll wait for Director Desai to come up with the police department number. While he's doing that, do you want to continue with your questions?
No. Sorry.
All right, so are we done with Chief Polyp?
Yes, we're done with Chief
Okay.
Pollard. Thank you.
We're waiting on Hitesh to come up with the police department number. I will fill the vacuum by offering a comment on item A18, which is to observe that Evanston residents can save $167.56 a year by using a 65-gallon cart rather than a 95-gallon cart. Our family of four does that. We recycle, we compost, and we very, very rarely even get close to filling up the smaller cart. So if you want to save up to almost $170 a year and take a step towards our CARP goals, you can do so by calling 311 and requesting a smaller cart.
I'll note that if you want to donate money to help the city take care of its fees, using that larger cart is actually better because we pay the same amount for pickup regardless of what cart you use. And I think that's one of the reasons we really need to look at trash collection in the next contract to see where we can have some real cost savings. And
Can we fact check Councilmember Reed while we're waiting for Director Desai to come up with that number? Do we pay the same rate to have a 65-gallon cart picked up as a 95-gallon cart? We're charging a different price. I think
my understanding is that the answer is yes. Is Brian Zimmerman here? But my understanding is that we pay per pickup regardless of if they're picking up a 65-gallon or whatever, smaller cart or a larger cart.
Chair Newsma, members of the committee, Noel Rodriguez, Public Services Bureau Chief. That is correct.
It is correct that we pay the same rate for pickup regardless of the size of the cart. And so it may lead us to charge per pickup rather than the size of the cart.
but we have one more year on this contract?
It expires mid-2025.
Okay, so something to think about for next time, for sure.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Desai, you ready?
Yes, the total budget for 24 for police department is 35.2 million.
35.2 million. All right, and then neither one of those numbers, so to go back, so our fire department is 21 million, our police department is 35.2 million. That's not inclusive of pensions. And what is our property tax levy proposed for 2024?
Total levy is around
54,
$60 million.
Around $60 million. So essentially, we're not even paying for police and fire with our property tax, taxes, let alone infrastructure and all of the other services that Evanston residents have come to expect. So I wanted to mention when Mr. Vassilko mentioned that, hey, well, I'm a property taxpayer and thereby, my taxes pay for these services. Quite frankly, no, they don't. And I think that's an education that a lot of residents have to have. In fact, our sales tax revenue between the home rule sales tax and our state disbursement of sales tax vastly, or I shouldn't say vastly, but outpaces our property tax collection. And so there are a number of other taxes that are really supporting our operations. And I think we need to get creative about expanding those taxes and not just relying on regressive property taxes. So that's really my only question there. I support this fee increase. I think this helps us capture some of those costs and offset the cost of public safety.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on items A17, A18? There being no further discussion, I will request a roll call, and this is on both items A17 and A18, which are ordinances 103, 023, and 105, 023.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
All right. There being no further business to come before the committee, I declare this meeting adjourned at 5:46. Council is scheduled to start at 6 o'clock. Thank you, everybody.